What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Welcome to the Apex AMA. I'm your host, Lawton Ho, here with Verified Investing. And thank you so much for joining me today. The way this works, for those of you who are new, is that feel free to ask me questions and I'll do my best to answer them, whether it's looking at a chart, whether it's looking at a chart, whether it's giving you information about any of the services Verified Investing provides. You can ask me anything you'd like. You can scan this QR code down below to ask your question, or if you're on YouTube, you can click on the link at the top of the description, and that should send you to the AMA where you can ask me some questions. So what's going on today, guys? Just taking a look at the markets. I mean, today's been kind of let me share my charts. Hopefully we have a better session than yesterday. The markets have been actually green today, right? We're down, a bit down from yesterday's close, right? Went way below and is now turning into a green day, despite the fact that Trump did post on his True Social a couple of those tariff letters, right? So again, I'm just going to put that on. You can scan that QR code down below to ask me any questions you'd like, or you can click on the link at the top of the description to ask me any questions you guys might have. So what type of questions you guys have for me? Let me see here. Okay. Got my questions. What's up, Jamie? See you typing your question. What's going on? Just taking a look at the rest of the markets. I know that Hood has had quite the down day. It was actually up pretty significantly, up about 5%, and then fell subsequently. I know that if we take a look at Wolf, WLF, Wolf was kind of crazy, right? Filled this gap, opened up above 312, and has come down, looking to potentially fill this gap down here. Take a look at the price here. Reddit going down a bit. But anyways, let's get into the questions, huh? Renica saying, hi, Lawton, would you please take a look at Cava? I would absolutely be happy to look at Cava. Here's the thing, right? When you guys submit your questions, it would help me a lot if you told me let's say you want us to look at Cava, right? Are you talking about for a swing trade, for a day trade? Do you have a short bias or a long bias? Are you bullish or bearish? What do you want me to take a look at? But Renica, I can tell you my thoughts on Cava. Cava, right, was up significantly, right, since 2023 lows, went up over 460%, going crazy, had earnings. You can see the earnings right here on my chart. Fell down, is now tumbling down. Additionally, let's see if you guys can recognize this pattern here. Look at this amazing head and shoulders pattern here on Cava, right? Potentially still forming and trying to break, but for me on Cava, I'll tell you where I see the next levels of resistance, okay? So for Cava, the first level of resistance I have is right here at about $89.37. I expect some resistance on Cava to be there. That's this nice gap fill. And Cava would need to go up about 2% more. There's another gap fill up here around $96.77. And finally, you have another gap fill over here around $99. Again, guys, for those of you who are joining me, you can ask me anything you want. Just scan that QR code down below to ask me any questions. That's what I'm looking at. Cava. Jimmy says, hey, Lawton, can you look at the hood 10-minute chart? Is it a bear flag? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up another set of charts just because I don't want to have this mixed up with my day trading charts. Okay, let's go here. Hood. Remove the drawings. 10-minute chart. Is this a bear flag? Yes, absolutely 100%. Now, what do we know about bear flags? You want to see a down move and then a sideways kind of consolidation. That is absolutely a bear flag. And you kind of want to see kind of an up slope, right? And you could argue that there was kind of like a upsloping trend line here. Although a better one would probably be here, which it already broke, right? But yeah, this kind of sideways consolidation is kind of bearish for Robinhood, the popular brokerage. Martin says, hi, Lawton. What's up, Martin? Does the heat map have any influence on your trading? Are you talking about I'm just going to take this off because it's a little hot. The heat map that we provide here at Verified Investing. If you're talking about that specific heat map, I don't really use it too much to dictate my trading rate. I can kind of get a sense in the markets like, okay, the semiconductor or the tech companies are having a down day. I can kind of see that, and that will help me look at the charts. But I don't see, I see a lot of red, I'm not going to trade, this today. No, the way I do it is I look at these individual stocks. I set my levels using technical analysis, and I take some gains like that, take some trades like that. Tina says, good morning, Lon. Good morning. Good afternoon, I should say, Tina. Thank you for coming. Stocks, thoughts on stocks. Yeah, stocks is, my absolute favorite chart to trade. I trade it almost every day. In fact, I'm day trading it right now with the live day trading room. So what the stocks is an inverse ETF, right? It's a 3 times leveraged inverse ETF, which means inverse means whatever that ETF is based off of, when that main ETF goes up, this price of this inverse ETF goes down. It's just the inverse, right? SOXS is based off of SOXX. For every 1% that SOXX goes up, SOXS will fall 3%. Okay? So using that logic, you see that SOXS is down about 7%. So we expect SOXX to be up around 2 point something percent. And it is 2.27. Okay? Additionally, this is 3 times leverage. So again, for every 1% move in the SOXX, there's a 3% move here in SOXS. 1% move to 3, excuse me. Anyways, I think the SOXX, I'll show you here, is coming into resistance, right? This is why I believe that this is going to fall, and I believe that SOXS should take a move higher. For me, my max upside basically for the SOXX, and trust me, it's my tongue is getting tied just kind of like answering, just repeating these. I expect a pullback off of this level, right? You see it pull back here, kissed it again today. But if you're looking for a pullback level, you could take a look at this trend line. Additionally, there's a gap fill up here. that it could pull back from, and the previous high up here in about July of last year could be an additional level of resistance for SOXX. Now, because SOXS is a leveraged ETF of this, it's hard to exactly pinpoint where, SOXS will bounce if this chart gets into a specific level, right? But you'll just have to pay attention to this chart. My tongue is like all over the place. I'm trying to just say these over and over and over again. But I do love the socks, right? I love this for a swing trade. I'm currently holding this long. My target is at least, above $10. Bernica says, I'm in Cava. You're in at Cava. $85, feeling bullish, but looking for a good exit before a pullback. Yeah. So if you're in at $85, good job. You're in the money, right? You're in the money. Again, let's find my levels of resistance. I had it on my other chart, but I'll just put it up here for you again. These are levels that Cava may see a pullback should it continue higher, right? So let's say your cost basis is around your $85, right? At first resistance, you'll be up 5%. Second resistance, you'd be up 14%. And at third resistance, you'd be up around 17-ish percent on your trade. Now, you have to decide how much would you like to make on this trade? How much are you willing to risk, right? Are you in a small position? Are you in a big position? Do you want to add to your trade? Generally, with swing trades, we go a little bit smaller, but we look for larger moves around 15%, right? Above 10%. In this case, I can tell you where I anticipate support to be should it fall. I'm not saying that it will. Down here, about 8.5% lower at around $78. That's where you should see a bounce in Cava should it come down, right? I can't tell you exactly where it's going to go. I can only give you the levels that it's most likely to face support and resistance. But that's a good question. Chris says, where would you long Wolf? What are your thoughts on its fundamentals? So honestly, I'm not much of a fundamental trader, right? But I know that everybody sees Wolf, WOLF, and saw, wow, it was down at 30, 40 cents, and it went up 700%. If I bought it, yesterday or the day before or Thursday before, I could have made 180%. But, and I'm going to try something new here, guys. This is a segment I'm going to call our Teachable moment. Okay, that was cool. I hadn't done that before. So this is the Apex AMA Teachable moment. So when we see stocks that are up so significantly, especially off of their lows in the past couple of days, there's something called FOMO that we deal with, the fear of missing out. Right? How do I know this? Is because I have friends, right, who traded Wolf, right, with me. And I would get text messages from my friends saying, Lawton, should I stay in? I told them, I said, listen, when a stock is so far down, especially on something as bearish as bankruptcy, right? So 30 cents. Any little bit of good news can cause the price of the stock to triple, quadruple, 7x in just a day or two, right? And we were in it, right? Not we, but they were in it, right? They had gone long because they knew it was a risk, it was a boom or bust stock, and it boomed. But let's say you sold over here, and you say, wow, it kept going. I could have made even more. I could have made 92% more money on this trade had I just held on. But that's not how we trade. This is a company that filed for bankruptcy, has $1 billion in debt, right? The news is there were some new investors potentially and a new CFO. But is that really enough to continue the move? This morning, my friends texted me saying, wow, WLLF is at $3.27. Can I get in now? And I told them stay away. The way I explained it to them in my text messages is pretend it's like an ex-girlfriend, right? You dated her, and you guys broke up for whatever reason, and then later you see she's doing well, so you go on your profile, oh, I should have stayed with her, oh, I should have done this. Like, no. Like, what happened, and it's time to move on. So for me on WOLF, here's where I expect support, right? On a day trading, specifically day trading. So I would not hold this longer than any other amount of time other than intraday. If it comes down to this level at 232, you could initiate a long, but be careful. It is extremely high risk. Additionally, should it continue to fall lower, you can consider entering along here around 118 at the secondary gap fill. But, and I haven't checked with my friends, if they bought in over here saying, how much more do you think it's going to go? At 327, they would be getting crushed right now, down over 22%. All right, so that was the teachable moment. All right, I'm going to go a little faster here. Chris says, no, just answered Chris. Anna says, hi, Lawton. What's up, Anna? Can you please look at ET? Do you see a head and shoulders pattern? Well, let's take a look. And first of all, I would say amazing job, right? Absolutely, I see a head and shoulders pattern. Look at this. Beautiful head and shoulders pattern. How do we know it's a valid one? You take the armpit down here, you connect it up through the pivots, through the neckline, and is it upsloping? If it's upsloping, then it is a valid head and shoulders pattern. Yes, absolutely. I see a head and shoulders pattern here. And the measured move of this, right, and the way that you find a measured move is from taking the highs of the head all the way down to the neckline, right? That's where I got that line, would be a move down 7% on ET. Now, do stocks always pan out to their full measured move? Not necessarily, right? Not necessarily. They sometimes may only go 60 to 80% of the measured move. Another thing you need to look at is where is this company on the charts? If you have a head and shoulders pattern down here at the lows, right, the likelihood of a head and shoulders pattern playing at the lows of the charts is significantly lower than it happening towards the highs. And you can see that we're near, while it's still down from its 2015 levels, it's near the recent highs. So I would say, yes, this is a head and shoulders pattern. And your support level, if you wanted to short it, would be right down here around 1689, right? But if you got in, that's only about a 4% profit, right? Now, how do you enter head and shoulders patterns? And I say this a lot. You can enter in one of two ways. First of all, you can either enter on a break of this trend line. Right? You can enter on a break of this trend line, or let's say it comes down, it retraces. Then you can enter a short down here on a retrace to that upsloping neckline. Amazing question, Anna. MD says, hey, Lawton, good day. What's up, MD? For entering a swing trade, how do you confirm a trend line breakout when retracing a trend line? I kind of explained it just here. You just want to see kind of a close below or above, and then the next move afterwards. All right. Nathan says, where do you see Rigetti going in the next few days? Is it time to take some profits? Well, it depends, right? Where is your entry? And you can see that my chart on Rigetti is a little crazy because this is these are my day trading charts. So you can see, wow, I was trading this all around over and over and over again. I'll delete those though. Depends, Nathan, where is your entry, right? I can only tell you where I anticipate it to run into resistance. You have a beautiful pivot high here, and a gap fill around here. These are the levels that I anticipate a pullback in Rigetti. This is where I would look to take profits around here. But as far as, where I think it's going to go in the next few days, it's hard to say, right? Rigetti is kind of, and all of quantum is kind of like a risky asset. So but the thing is, if one of them has good news, they're all going to go up like 30%. So, and if one of them has bad news, they're all going to go down 30%. John says, tell us the whole process of day trading with a group. Who are we trading with, Gareth or Maggie, or who? Does it depend on what service we pay for on who we'll be trading with? I know each service has a trader attached to it, but wondering if we subscribe for day trading, who will it be? Great question. So for the live day trading room, you're going to have access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 traders, okay? And you're going to be able to hear us and see our screen just like you're doing right now, except you don't get to see our faces all the time. The traders in there are myself, Dr. B, Gareth, Drew Dosick, and Benjamin Poole. You'll have access to all 5 of us, and we'll be talking with each other while sharing our screen and our charts. Every single time we enter a trade, you will be notified both audibly, and also we have a screen that shows us our current positions, right? So you'll have access to all of us. And just like you're doing now, you're going to have the ability to ask us questions, be like, hey, Gareth, what do you think about this chart? Now, if we're looking for day trades, we might not necessarily answer your question right away. But if it's a little bit slower, particularly in the afternoon, we may elect to answer some questions. Corey says, can you take a look at Lucid on the daily chart? I noticed that the volume has been spiking as the price has been consolidating in a wedge pattern. Do you think the stock is a buy for a long? They also have a new SUV coming out that could take the market share away from Tesla. Thoughts? Thanks, man. Good question, Corey. Let's take a look at Lucid. Now, Lucid, I'll admit I've traded this before. It's kind of a meme stock, right? Right? Reddit, Wall Street Bets in particular, loves trading it, and look how far down it is on the charts. And what did I say before? When price is so far low, for a stock like this, especially a meme stock, right? Any little bit of positive news will cause the price to jump, right? But here's what I see on the Lucid chart. Okay. You could be seeing, let's see here. You could be seeing, first of all, there was this trend line that it traded around a couple times and finally broke below. Lucid is coming up, could face some resistance up there. Right? It's up about 8% for the day. So if you ask me if this was the time to go long, I could not advise it, right? This is kind of similar to the WOLF thing. You're kind of chasing. You saw it continue higher, right? You mentioned volume, and I see some higher volume here, right? Certainly within the past month or so, right? Month and a half. But nothing that's too out of the ordinary, right? Certainly there's been more volume here than in kind of lulls over here. But this is nothing that would cause me to consider going long right now, right? In fact, I would argue that you can expect a pullback here, and you could wait before going long. If you absolutely wanted to go long, you could go long here. A retrace at the gap fill about 211. It was at this price earlier today, right? So if price came back in, you could consider going long an LCID there. And I understand that, they have a new SUV coming out, but you have to remember that Tesla already has a bunch of competitors. And while Tesla is not doing too well, it's bouncing back today, but it's not doing too well because it's the arguments between Trump and Elon. There are still competitors, right? Like if you look at Rivian, right, arguably their largest competitor, right? What is Rivian doing? Rivian is still a relatively small company compared to Tesla. If you really want to make a bet on a company that might take on Tesla, I would consider Rivian before Lucid. But that doesn't mean that Lucid doesn't have the ability to go higher, right? Particularly if there's good / bullish news. Pavlina says, "Hey, Lon, can we please look to go back to Cava for a moment?" Absolutely. Swing trade, smaller inverse head and shoulders, breaking above, possibly confirming today if it hit the low. Inverse head and shoulders. If you're talking about this, I don't really see one. Inverse head and shoulders. Talking about something like this. I don't really see one, to be honest. Humberto says, "Can you give some tips on setting up a screener?" Yeah, I mean, for me, I just keep like a watch list of the stocks that I like trading, and that's how I find the stocks, right? I just see what's moving. I'll sort by what has the most or the least amount of change in the day, and SoundHound is the stock that's moved the most today. I look at SoundHound, look at this, look for levels for potential short. Fill up here, pivot low here, which actually was the level 1336, funnily enough. But I don't like use a specific screener like that, right? I know you can sort by small caps, you can sort by market cap, you can sort by percent change, you can sort by all types of things. Renica says, "Thank you, Lawton. As an educator, I appreciate all teaching moments. Have a good day." You too, Renica. Martin says, "What pre-market screener parameters do you set for market cap, volume gap, percentage? Do you check pre-market news in the sector, doing trade?" Here's what I do every single day, right? When I'm getting into the office and taking a look and getting ready to trade, I first check my watch list, the stocks that I'm comfortable trading, day trading, just because I know how they generally move. So I sort by percentage. The next thing I do is I check if any stocks had earnings, right? I go to the calendar, the earnings calendar, and check if any stocks had earnings either that morning or the evening prior. And then finally, I'll go on to a couple of message boards, and not every single trader does this, and I'll look at what retail is talking about, whether it's Wall Street Bets or anything like that. I'm not taking advice for them, and I don't recommend anyone doing that. It's just I like to get a sense of understanding of where the retail crowd sentiment is. Okay. See here. Sherry says, Hi, Lawton. What's up, Sherry? Can you please tell me if Walmart is finally making a bear flag? I have a put and it's acting weird. Thanks." I would not call this a bear flag. Generally on bear flags, you want to see this. A move down and then kind of like this, right? Or a move down and just, or a move down and then just like sideways, right? This is not really a bear flag, to me at least. But you say you have a put. So do I think Walmart favors a move down? Absolutely. I think it does. You have a beautiful trend line here that it's breaking today. What you want to see is a close below and a continued move down, but that would only lead to about probably 4% max upside if this is your only indicator, right? To about this pivot low or this pivot low. It also depends on your strike price, right? Depends on your strike price. So if that's good enough, if your strike price is somewhere around here or you're already in the money, then that could look good for you. But I do think it looks bearish, but not because of a bear flag. Martin says, was that a bull flag on the Rivian chart? No, I wouldn't say so. Although I think Rivian does look fairly bullish just because you have this kind of like downsloping downtrend, right? You favors a move to the upside, right? Whenever you have a downtrend, it favors a move to the upside. We just need to see when that'll be, right? Gene says hymns. Again, you see all of my day trading charts. So for hymns, yeah. Levels of resistance and support. Resistance at this pivot high. You have this previous gap fill here, and you have this beautiful gap fill here, all-time highs up here, right? That's just a really easy boom, 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 boom way for me to be able to find resistance on any stock that I see. As far as support is concerned, gap fill from yesterday. You have pivot low from yesterday, and then you have this, not yesterday, excuse me, from June. You have a gap fill here. My chart wasn't scrolled over, so these levels are no longer valid. So this is the gap fill for resistance on HIMS. Support on HIMS would be here at this gap fill, but you see price tagged it, hit it, and then bounced intraday for about 4% gain. So if you played that gap fill, you would have been very happy with yourself. Additional levels of support on HIMS down here. I apologize for my mistake. So these are my levels of support on HIMS. We have about 10 minutes left in the show. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to leave them down below. What I'll do to kind of close it out is something called the rapid fire round. I'll wait for you guys to submit a couple more charts that you'd like me to look at, and I'll do my best to get through them pretty quickly. So it can be almost like a game, be a little fun. But if you guys have any additional questions, leave them down below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Let's see here. Just looking at the rest of the charts in general, I mean, everything seems to be around all-time highs, right? Whether that's NVIDIA, whether that's the S&P, whether that's the Qs, they're all trading at or near all-time highs. Now, do I believe that there's a pullback coming? Absolutely, right? But the question is when, and what would it take to cause that pullback? Well, a couple things could happen, right? We thought that these tariffs and could the expirations of the tariff postponement could cause a fall, right? However, Trump extended, those enforcements of those tariffs, and in the most recent days, particularly yesterday, made it clear that he is going to. He's written these letters of showing different countries how much percent tariffs they're going to put on them, right? For example, Japan, 25%, South Korea, 25%, Cambodia, I believe 30 to 35%, or 36%, maybe. And those aren't going to be enforced. They're postponed again to the 1st of August. So when the letters first came out yesterday, I guess the markets kind of dropped all of a sudden. But when they realized that there was actually a postponement in the enforcement of these tariffs, what happened? The markets kind of rallied. So the markets might be having a little bit of a difficult time believing that the enforcement of these tariffs will really come to fruition. Okay. But I see some charts in there, so I'm going to do something called a rapid fire round. Okay, this is where I'm going to answer your questions relatively quickly because I have a couple charts. Sorry about that. Hopefully you guys can hear me. My camera stopped working after I pressed that button, so maybe I shouldn't have pressed that button. But anyways, let's hop into the rapid fire round. First off, Chris says plug. Let's take a look at plug. Swing long on plug. So for me on plug, the first level of potentially going long would be over here around $1.16, approximately 18% lower. You have a gap fill down here, right? That should provide support. Plug does favor move to the upside because you can see it's currently down about 98% from its highs, right? But again, from its May lows, it has also popped up around 130%. So my first level to inch in would be here, and an add level could be here. The final level down here at around 69 cents. So 116, 97 cents, and then 69 cents. Next chart from Martin's is CLX, the rapid fire round. So CLX, this is not too dissimilar from that plug chart, but something interesting I might see. We'll see if I can get this to anchor properly. Not quite. Let's see if this trend line works a little better. Let's see. Okay. So you had this beautiful trend line hit 1, 2, 3 times. And if you go a little closer, it previously chopped around here. So this might be a good trend line. We can see that price, as of now, is trying to get back above this trend line. You see it bounce. Price had bounced off of this level previously, about 1%, right? Come down in June, pushed back higher, and is looking to move back above this trend line. If I'm trading CLX, this is a chart. This is a trend line that I'm keeping on my mind. If you wanted to enter a long position, I wouldn't blame you. However, I would add to my position if you just wanted to go long around here, around 120.06. Excuse me. And again, over here at 117. My levels of resistance on CLX are around 129.64. Beautiful gap fill here and around 131.84. which is only about a 4% move higher. Could this thing go significantly higher? Yes, but just know that there's tons of levels of resistance for CLX on the way up should this continue to move higher. Next, Nathan says, where do you see IONQ moving in the next few days? IONQ, for IONQ, again, I can't tell you where it's exactly going to go in the next few days. But for me, I can tell you the levels of resistance. You have a double top right here. This would be the triple top up here on $49 exactly. Funnily enough, coincidentally, it is just basically 50 cents below this gap fill up here. That's where I expect price to pull back from IONQ. Would I go long IONQ? No, I wouldn't. But I also wouldn't go short either. This is likely something I would not touch unless it hit this gap fill level. Then I may be interested for shorting this as a day trade, right? Or a swing trade. You can consider a short up here on $54.72. But just know that the way quantum likes to move is extremely volatile. So be careful. Next one, Mandy says, SoFi. Yeah, SoFi has been really nice, trading at all-time highs, but we could be putting in, this could be potentially the end of SoFi, a bottoming tail, depending on where and how this candle closes. On SoFi, on stocks like this, it is extremely difficult to find levels of support and resistance, right? You saw this parallel channel that I had drawn previously that price beautifully played around over here. Should SoFi continue higher, hit this, that would need a move 22% higher. Now, do I think SoFi is going to go 22% higher before a pullback? No, I think it absolutely favors a move for a pullback, but that's where I would short it should it continue higher. Another thing that you can consider is just using today's high pivot, right? It was all the way up here at $20.91 before falling so significantly, right? Why is that? That means that there's a level of resistance there. So should price get into there tomorrow, you could potentially day trade that. Now, would this be a level to short SoFi as a swing trade? I would consider it. I would heavily consider it because, you know, if you take a measured move from the lows of Liberation Day, you're moving up around 140% from that level. Ryan says, are there sectors of the market that won't be affected by a correction? I'm holding MMD long at 645. Don't want to take profits too soon or too late. So this is a pharmaceutical company. It's a very small company, right? On like 500 million market cap. This shouldn't really be affected by a pullback in the markets, right? These smaller cap companies tend to get affected less. However, they can still get affected. You can see a beautiful inverse head and shoulders pattern right here that I just noticed. Boom, boom, boom. And let's find that measured move on that breakout and see if that actually played out. Looks like it played out about 50% of the measured move. Granted, that's a 34% measured move. For me, on this stock and MMD, you can consider exiting here at this double top. It hit it 1 and 2 times, right? The third time, could it break? Absolutely. But this is not a stock that I would trade personally just because it's a small cap. But because you're in it, because you're in the money, I would recommend putting a trailing stop somewhere along this potential trend line that a worst case scenario, I'm not going to lose any money and I'm still going to hold the profit. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me on the Apex AMA. Again, my name is Lawton Ho here with Verified Investing. If you have more questions, I'd be happy to answer them to you. You can send them to me on Twitter at Lawton Investing is my Twitter handle. Again, that's at Lawton Investing. And I'll be live tomorrow, same time, same place, 12:30 to 1:15. Have a good one, guys. Take it easy. Bye-bye.